Hi guys, it's Kathy. I hope you're doing well. So, OJ, we skipped a day. So of course I have no idea. Oh, I didn't share my screen. I can't. I think we're. Are we with Phillips? No, we're not with Phillips. Are we with Lang? We might be with Detective Lang. So we're done with Phillips. We are. It looks like I didn't finish this video. Oh, I was so tired. No sound. Okay. Oh, John, I got a clip for you. But not now. There we go. Now we're good to go. No, we're not up to the glove scene yet.
Your Honor, People 62. Please. 62A, 62B, 62C.
Okay, if we could stop here. Did you see the Bronco that you've described, sir, parked at the Rockingham gate on June the 13th in these photographs?
Yes.
Is that the one you described?
Yes.
And do you recall seeing the blood, that little spot that's being shown in this photograph, sir?
Yes, that appears to be the same spot.
Okay.
62D.
My stream tomorrow is going to have a clip for you about a dog. A good thing about a dog. Well, nothing happens to a dog.
62D. 62E. 62F.
Going back to 62E for a moment. And then 62F.
62F.
Did you happen to make observations concerning what was inside the rear cargo area of the Bronco?
Yes.
And what did you observe?
I observed a package with a label on it, I believe O.J. Simpson Enterprises from the Dan Marino Foundation. And I believe there was a shovel in the back.
After making those observations, sir, what did you do next?
I recall walking back towards the Ashford gate and talking to Van Adder and Phillips. It was at that time I was told something about who may or may not be in the residence. That was, I'm sorry.
It's okay, but hold on.
People's Exhibit 64.
You went back to the Ashford gate, sir?
I was in that vicinity.
Okay. And who was it you had a conversation with?
It wasn't necessarily a conversation. Phillips had walked towards me and Van Adder and had made a statement.
Was that statement concerning a maid inside the house?
Yes,
And what did you learn?
that there should have been a maid on the premises.
And what happened next?
Phillips had been in contact with West LA Division and had received a phone number of the residents, I believe, through West Tech. And Phillips attempted to phone the residents with his cellular phone.
And after Detective Phillips called the defendant's home phone number, what happened?
I could hear the phone ringing from the street. Phillips stated to me that the
Sustained.
Did you learn whether or not there was any response? Anyone picked up the phone?
no one picked up the phone.
What happened next?
I discussed with Phillips and Van Adder and Furman what we had, and that we didn't know Mr. Simpson's whereabouts. There was supposedly a housekeeper or a maid that was supposed to be on the premises. We had a light on in the house. We had, at this time, observed 2 vehicles in the driveway. We had what appeared to be blood on a vehicle parked, in my opinion, at a funny angle in the street. We had just left the crime scene. We discussed a certain exigency that we might have felt existed. I felt that someone inside that house may be the victim of a crime, may be bleeding or worse. We could raise no one at the location, so we decided to go in.
What happened next?
I looked at the gate, appeared to be a hydraulic gate. Furman was standing closest to the left side of the gate. He said, "I can go over the wall." I said, "Okay, go." He at this time went over the wall, stepped to his right, and manually pulled the hydraulic gate open.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yes, that was extremely confusing testimony. They opened the gate, so we need a minute to discuss them opening the gate. Hi, Debbie.
No. At the point that you asked Detective Furman to go over the wall, sir, what were your choices? What were your options in terms of what to do in terms of let me try and do that again. Well, me too.
Oh, I want to slap him. Oh, I want to slap him.
Ms. Clark.
In light of all that you knew at that point in time, what were your choices? What could you do?
Overruled.
We could either enter the grounds and attempt to find possible victims for Mr. Simpson, or we could leave and go back and conduct a crime scene investigation.
Your Honor, that's not my objection. Those aren't all the alternatives.
Well, counsel, there's cross-examination. I'm sure you'll tell him some others.
You can't object to his answer. You can cross
That's the way it
him.
normally works.
Yeah.
All right. Ms. Clark.
So you could either stay or go back to Bundy? And
Sustained.
I haven't finished the question.
He just told us that.
Did you... Okay, you made the choice to stay there.
Yes. It was a mutual choice with my partner and myself.
Okay. What happened next?
I entered the location with Phillips and Van Adder, and with the 4 of us walked towards the front door. We observed a dog lying in the driveway. He didn't appear to be threatening. We walked past the dog to the front door, and I believe it was Phillips or Van Adder who knocked on the front door several times. We got no response. We moved to the east of the entrance to a walkway that led us to the rear of the location.
All right, so I'm going to ask you to indicate on a board for the jury where you went after you entered the property. And the decision to enter the property at that time was made by who?
By myself and my partner,
Detective Van Adder.
simultaneously. Yeah, Van Adder, yes.
And so Detective Furman went over the wall at your request?
Yes.
Yes, yes. People's Exhibit 66.
Would you step down, sir, with the pointer? First, let me ask you this. In terms of the 4 detectives there, who was the most senior, if you know? I mean, if you know now, today.
The department would be, there's 2 types of seniority, those who get promoted before others and those who have more tenure. As far as tenure, it'd be Detective Phillips. As far as senior in rank, who was promoted first would be Van Adder.
Who was the most junior detective there?
Furman.
Did you know that night?
No,
Who was the youngest one there?
probably Furman.
Did you know that night?
It appeared to be that way, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Could you please show us the path you took after you entered the property?
We entered here at the Ashford Gate, 4 of us walked down the driveway in this direction going south into this front entrance area where the front door is. This is where the knocking occurred. There was no response, so the 4 of us walked back out and around to this walkway, which is just, I believe, north of the residence, and walked to the rear of the location. This walkway coming into this rear porch area. Just a couple of steps up the porch, walked across the porch, down into this patio area, down into this vicinity here. I observed glass door, I believe it was this one here. I walked up to this door and rapped on the door, attempting to raise someone inside. We got no response.
So at this point, after you've knocked on the front door and the back door with getting no response, where did you go?
Yeah, that's crazy how O.J. Simpson's floor plan of his house and his pool and his tennis court and his bungalow houses look really similar to mine, guys. It's like he copied my house.
I stepped back towards Phillips, Van Adder, and Furman, who had walked towards this location here that appeared to be guest houses or bungalows. And I would believe I was behind Phillips and Furman walking down the steps to this front room labeled Kalen's.
Brett can go back to bed.
And when you got to Kalen's room, what happened?
It was Furman who knocked on the door and stated there appeared to be somebody inside. He knocked again, and Mr. Kalen opened the door.
And where were you at the time?
I was to the rear of Phillips and Furman, probably on this walkway right here.
Were all 4 of you detectives pretty much standing together, or
Hi,
were you
Carla.
spread out? Where was everyone?
Van Adder was up in this area still behind us. And this is a fairly narrow walkway. And my recollection is that Phillips and Furman were in front of me and I was standing behind.
And after Mr. Kalen answered the door, can you tell us if you made any observations of his condition?
He appeared to have just woken up. He had a disheveled appearance. Appeared to be pretty groggy.
Did someone ask who he was?
Yes, Furman asked who he was and if he lived there, something to this effect.
You go ahead, have a seat. You can take it down.
I would love snow right now so much.
Thank you. All right.
How are you doing? Excuse me.
Since my last stream, since my earlier stream.
All right, we're going to take a brief recess at this
10
point.
minutes long, they said. Yeah,
All
okay.
right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, please remember my admonition to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Don't conduct any deliberations until the matter has been submitted to
He
you.
would have
Don't
been
allow anybody
so
to communicate
famous.
with you regarding the
He
case.
would have been so
We're going to take
famous.
a 15-minute recess this morning. I'm going to ask you to step back into the jury room, please. All right, we'll stand in recess for 15. All right, are we missing Mr. Scheck?
Do we really need Mr. Scheck? I don't think so.
All right, back on the record in the Simpson matter, all counsel are again present. Counsel, is there something we need to discuss about the testing protocol?
Your Honor,
or other matters?
I don't know what your timing is, but I think that it's complicated, and I don't know if you would want to do it right now. I don't know if there's any,
Well, is
On
time
the
of
jury
the
time.
essence since we have a witness on the stand, or is there something we can do once we...
I think we can take this up later.
Yeah. It's going to take a while to discuss.
Maybe Marcia and I have a moment with these gentlemen.
The fake sidebars again. I don't know why they keep saying they're not going to have a sidebar. We're not going to have a sidebar. Did the judge tell them they weren't allowed to have any more sidebars because they were taking up too much time? It just happened like court case wise a day or two ago. They just stopped doing sidebars. So I wonder why. I wonder what happened. I'm so glad my children don't get on the bus anymore. Oh my gosh. That was so frustrating. I think it was all of their senior years was the worst for me. Their senior year of school, it was just so hard. Alright, I'm going to bump it forward. Oh my gosh, look, there's still... Oh. I think Randy told me that this trial goes 2 months without a witness. I'm guessing it's the blood evidence and that they fight over. I'm guessing. But that's gonna be a hard stretch for us to get through. We're gonna have to get through it together. We should do a drinking game of sidebar.
Solve this?
I could. With this witness, we're going to need a certain list of items of evidence. I do not know whether they are included in the list that the defense now wants to take for further testing. And I understand that they have some long-range plans. I don't know what they are. So but 1:30.
I think what needs to happen, Your Honor, is that counsel are going to need to talk to Your Honor in chambers at some point. And so we can continue the evidence, and we can do it either at lunchtime or have the jury come back a little bit later this afternoon. We can save some time by speaking with you and work this issue out. But it has to have, you need to carve out some time, I think, for it.
It won't be resolved in 15 minutes, I don't think.
You want to tell me specifically what it is we're talking about at this point?
I've been as specific as I can be. It's really the defense that has not put into writing yet what items they are allowed to request.
Should we approach the
So-
bench, or do you want
Now,
me
why
to?
don't you just tell me right now?
Yeah, I think that there's issues with respect to items that we have examined already. that I anticipate they would be putting into evidence soon, because observations were made, different pieces of trace
Yay,
evidence were
record!
secured from those items and segregated, since we weren't allowed to test anything, but just examine it for further comparison and potentially testing. Then there's the logistics of working out arrangements to examine other items that the prosecution is anticipating put into evidence. And as the court knows, that's a longer discussion. My suggestion is that
You need a
we
cup of
probably
coffee.
could deal with this in chambers at the end of the day, because it again is going to involve what the prosecution intends to introduce and when they intend to introduce it, so that we can look at it before they do that, where that would take place, when that would take place, and what the timing of it is.
All right, Ms. Clark, then can you proceed with your direct examination with Detective Lang for the remainder of the morning without any need to address any of these issues?
Yes, I believe I can, Your Honor. I do want to have the opportunity to fully address the court concerning this most recent request by the defense. I don't know how many times they want to look at all of this evidence, and at the 11th hour, as they have, it's my understanding that everything has been examined by them, and so we come to a
Well,
point.
the agreement was that they could examine it but not test it. That was the agreement over the weekend.
But we keep sending evidence out, and, I mean, you know, throwing it all over the
All right, well,
country, this is not...
Let me ask you, Ms. Clark, will you be able to proceed and conclude the court day this afternoon without any difficulties regarding the presentation of the physical evidence?
That I don't know. That's the problem. If I could assure the court of that, I wouldn't take time to do it.
All right, let's do this then. Let's conclude the morning session. Over the lunch hour, I'll ask counsel to confer. When we come back at 1:30, if there's anything that needs to be resolved, we'll take it up at that point.
Okay.
All right. And if I could ask Mr. Scheck, Mr. Blazer, Mr. Clark, and Mr. Harmon, if you could, and Mr. Hodgman and Mr. Yokelson, perhaps if you gentlemen could confer while court is in session with the jury on other matters, perhaps we can narrow down the areas of inquiry. I see nods. All right. All right, let's have the jury, please. Detective Tom Lang is still on the witness stand on direct examination. Good morning again, Detective Lang. You're reminded that you are still under oath.
Yes, sir.
And Ms. Clark, you may continue with your direct examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Detective Lang, I believe you indicated that you just made contact with Cato Kalin, and that someone had asked who he was, and he gave his identity, his name to you.
Yes, that was
This is where I
Detective
get triggered.
Furman that was speaking with Kalen.
Now, at that time, did any of you ask him where the defendant was?
I believe Phillips asked something to that effect. And Cato didn't really have a response. He really didn't know. Didn't appear to know.
Today's my day off too. Yes.
Did Cato ask you why you were there?
I don't recall him asking.
Did you tell him why you were there?
No.
Why not?
I didn't know who Kalen was. The other detectives didn't know who he was. He was not a family member. We just didn't have him identified properly. We knew his name, but we didn't have him identified.
And so not having had him identified, why would you not want to tell him why you were there?
He's a possible suspect.
What happened next?
Furman spoke with Kalen and asked him if he was wearing, where the shoes were he was wearing last night, something to that effect, if he could look at them. And Kalen stated something to the effect that he didn't have a problem with that. At that time, I believe it was Phillips who asked if there was anyone else in the area, and Kalen stated that Arnell was next door, indicating that that was Mr. Simpson's daughter.
So Cato let Detective Furman look at his shoes?
Yes.
And so did Detective Furman step into the room with Mr. Kalin?
Yes.
At that point, what did the three of you do?
I was still out on the walkway. Phillips proceeded down the walkway to the next room over, and I was behind him. And Phillips had knocked on that door. And a short time later, Arnell Simpson appeared.
Now, during that time, Detective Furman was where?
He was in Kalen's room.
And was there a conversation that took place between Arnell Simpson and one of the detectives?
Yes, I believe initially with Phillips, and then Van Adder shortly after.
All right, now at that point, did Arnell Simpson ask you any questions?
Yay.
Yes, she wanted to know
Thanks, Carla.
what we were doing there, if there was any problems.
Hi, Walter.
She seemed to me to be concerned because of our presence.
Okay. Did Detective Van Adder ask her any questions?
Yes.
What was that?
Asked if her father, Mr. Simpson, was inside the house.
And what was her response?
Something to the effect of, isn't he here?
Hi, Kelly.
She asked him.
Happy
Isn't he
St.
here?
Patrick's
Yes.
Day.
And then what happened next?
We moved towards the rear after asking Arnell if she had a key to the location. She said she did. I believe she returned to her room briefly and got the key and came back out.
Robert, thank you so much.
We then proceeded to the rear door of the residence, where she unlocked the door and we entered.
Now, did you tell her at that point why you were there?
Not at that point.
Why not?
Well, we didn't really know what we had at that point. I think it was important for her to maintain herself emotionally before we told her anything, because we may need her cooperation at a future time.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Need her cooperation at a future time?
Well, we didn't want her to. We wanted her to have it together enough to talk to us regarding the whereabouts of her father. Certainly, we didn't know if he was a victim, and I felt by telling her that her ex-stepmother was now deceased might be a real problem with her, when in fact we didn't know the whereabouts of Mr. Simpson at that time.
And what did you think she could assist you with if you wanted to maintain her calm and cooperative? What did you think she would help you with?
Locating her father.
Anything else?
Basically, in locating her father and other relatives, if need be.
By the way, were you aware that there were two small children being held at the West LA Police Station?
Yes.
And did you think she might help you in that regard?
I don't answer the door. Period. Don't answer
Were you
the
concerned
door.
about the welfare of those children?
Certainly.
Did you have any thought about who might help you with them?
Overruled.
Certainly, I felt that Arnell Simpson or someone she knew could help us with that, yes.
All right. When you got into the house with her, did you ask a question of her?
I asked if there was a housekeeper on the premises.
Why'd you ask that?
because we had information that there was in fact a housekeeper on the premises, or should have been a housekeeper on the premises, and I wanted to know.
Were you concerned for some reason in that regard?
I was concerned that the housekeeper may be some type of a victim. I didn't know.
What happened next? When you asked Arnell if there was a housekeeper on the premises?
She stated that she didn't know, but that there was a housekeeper.
She said she didn't know if there was a housekeeper?
She didn't know if there was one on the premises. I asked her where the housekeeper's room would be. She pointed out a location to the rear of the kitchen. And at some point, I proceeded over there and walked into that room, the room that she stated belonged to the housekeeper.
Did you ask to see the room?
Yes, I asked where it was.
And was that the first room that you went to look into in the house?
No, I walked through the rear area,
Now I know what Cochran and Marcia are always writing down when the other person's up there. They're writing the exact questions down that the other people are asking, so that when they go up, they can ask the exact question. It's, it's professionalism.
just the rear den area and through a formal dining room and through the kitchen down a short hallway, and to the left of that was the housemaid's room.
Now, was Arnell leading you through the house?
She was with me, more or less in the front. Initially, when I asked the location of the housemaid room, she more or less walked in front of me and pointed out the way.
Did you then immediately go and look in the room?
Yes.
What did you see?
The bed was made, nothing looked disturbed, nothing looked out of place, and no housemaid.
No housemaid?
That's correct.
While you looked into the maid's bedroom, where was Arnell?
Arnell was in the vicinity of the kitchen.
And was there someone with her?
Detective Phillips was there, and I believe Van Etter.
What happened next?
Detective Phillips was engaged in a conversation with Arnell regarding contacting, I believe, Mr. Simpson's secretary, Kathy Randa. And Arnell got the phone number for Kathy Randa and phoned her.
Now, during this period of time, sir, did you happen to see Cato Kalin?
Not at that particular time. I believe he was in the rear with a firm in the rear of the residence.
What?
Overruled.
When you say the rear of the residence, what do you mean?
In the vicinity of the bar.
And where was Detective Van Adder?
People were moving about quite a bit. I believe he was somewhere between the bar and the kitchen.
I like tribute better. Hunger Games.
Now, while you were standing downstairs there, in the downstairs area, did you engage in a search of the location?
No.
Did you look around in any manner? Were you making any observations?
I looked around to see if anything might have been disturbed or if anyone was in need of anything.
Did you open closets?
No.
Open drawers?
No.
Look in shelves?
No.
Check under couches or under tables?
No.
What were you doing?
We were trying to contact Mr. Simpson. At that point, excuse me, we'd had information that he was probably out of town. After checking the maid's quarters, there didn't appear to be any problem in there, so I didn't feel that the maid was necessarily on the premises.
All right, did you ever go upstairs to look for the defendant?
No.
Why not?
Again, we'd received information the defendant was in Chicago.
Did you get that information shortly after you entered the house?
Yes.
All right, now, you said that a phone call was made by, what was it, by Arnell?
I believe Arnell phoned Kathy Randa, yes.
Okay. And after she made that phone call, what happened next?
I believe Detective Phillips then took the phone and had a conversation with Kathy Randa.
And what happened next?
He ascertained a location, which was Chicago, and I believe, a phone number.
Now, at that time, did you see where Detective Van Adder went, or where he was?
Detective Van Adder, some of that time was back with Furman and Kalin near the bar area.
They appear to be having a conversation?
Yes.
At the point that Detective Phillips made the phone call to Chicago, what did you do?
I more or less walked with Arnell, attempted to escort her away from the phone out towards the sunroom in the front of the house.
Why?
I had determined at that point that I was going to tell her what had happened. She was very inquisitive and becoming more and more upset. I knew that Phillips was going to be talking to Mr. Simpson, explain to him what had happened, and I felt this was the time that I should make this notification about the death of Nicole Simpson.
So, did you notify Arnell Simpson?
Yes.
What happened next?
She became extremely upset. Extremely upset. She calmed down after a little bit to the point where she asked if she could call her dad's best friend and have him come over to the house, Mr. A.C. Cowlings, and if she could make that call to Mr. Cowlings from her room. And I stated yes, and go ahead and do that.
Did you ask her for any information, sir?
Not at that time, I don't believe.
Did you ever attempt to ascertain who other next of kin might be for Nicole Brown?
Subsequent to that, I did. I asked if she would have any names or telephone numbers and any relatives of Nicole Brown Simpson.
And when was that in relation to when she went to call A.C. Cowlings?
I may be mistaken. I think it might have been after, or I don't recall. It was before, right around that area.
I'm
Right
sorry.
around that time. I don't recall. There were a lot of things going on. There were a lot of emotions, people moving in and out. I don't recall exactly when that was. It was just before she made the call to Cowlings or just after.
Okay. But right in that time, either just before or just after?
Within a matter of minutes, I believe, yes.
Okay. And so when you asked for some identification of some other next of kin for Nicole Brown, did she give you some information?
Yes, she stated that the Brown family, Nicole's family, resided in, I believe, Dana Point, and that she had a phone number.
And did
I'm sorry?
did you take it?
Yes.
Now, at that point, did you have any identification yet on the other victim at the crime scene, Ron Goldman?
No.
How far was Dana Point from where you were located at that time in Brentwood?
Dana Point was, in my estimation, probably at least 70, 80 miles away.
So what did you do?
I phoned the Brown residence
And for what purpose did you phone them?
to make a notification of the death of Nicole Simpson.
And what phone did you use to do that from?
I used the kitchen phone.
May I have a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Show you telephone records, sir, from GTE. First of all, do you recognize the phone number that is shown as the number for which this bill is issued?
Yes, that appears to be Mr. Simpson's phone number on the morning of June 13th.
All right, so it's his phone bill.
Yes.
And directing your attention now to the entry for June the 13th at 6:21 a.m., do you recognize the phone number that follows there?
Yes, that appears to be the Brown family residence in Dana Point.
And the call lasted for 8 minutes?
Yes.
Now, with respect to that call, sir, first of all, what is the policy for LAPD with respect to the preferred method of notification of next of kin when a homicide has occurred or a death has occurred?
For the investigating detective to notify in person.
But you didn't do that with the Browns.
No, I didn't.
Why not?
I felt that in the very near future there would be immense media attention, and that once the information were to get out that Nicole Brown Simpson was a victim of a murder, that they could find out through the media what had happened. And while the way I did it was insensitive, it would have been much more insensitive for them to find out their daughter was murdered over the television.
And so when you called, who did you speak to?
I spoke to Mr. Lou Brown, victim's father.
Was anyone else on the phone?
Shortly after I began to speak to Mr. Brown, Denise Brown, I got on apparently another phone.
What did you tell them?
I told them who I was and something to the effect that I apologize for having to do this way, but that their daughter had been killed.
What happened next?
Denise Brown began to...
Overruled.
Denise Brown began to scream over the phone, what I believed to be hysterically.
Next question.
And what did she say?
Your Honor, may I have a look at counsel?
Yes.
Perhaps say visit to Sidebars.
Counsel, Ms. Clark, you may continue.
Mr. Armey, have 1 moment, please.
Certainly.
You just had a lot of moments, dear. A lot of moments, dear. I'm pretty sure I could never kill anyone. I'm pretty sure. I feel like if I could do that, if I was able to do that, which I don't think I am, I would have by now. Because I have a list. Just someday I'll date someone like Dexter. I'll just mention a name, and then I'll read in the paper a couple weeks. Oh no!
All right, you indicated that you allowed Ms. Simpson to call A.C. Cowling.
Yes.
And shortly after you allowed her to make that phone call, what happened next?
I will give you thoughts on how to buy a wife to do your domestic duties. Pick up your phone, bend over. Never mind.
Mr. Cowlings showed up, seemed a short time after that, at the location.
And what happened after that?
It was about this time that Detective Furman approached me in the kitchen area and stated that
Sustained at this point. He was approached by Detective Furman.
Yes. Did he ask you to do something?
yes,
What?
he asked me to accompany him outside into the rear of the bungalow at the location.
So where did he take you?
We walked out through the sunroom that's adjacent to the kitchen, out on the front driveway, walked around the garage to a walkway that borders the south side of the property, and we proceeded eastbound down the walkway to a point that appeared to be behind and south of the guest room of Cato Kalin.
Okay. Can you describe the location as it appeared on June the 13th of 1994?
Yeah, I saw one of those. The first one I saw was in Judge Giles' courtroom, and I mean, I had to rewind it and watch it a couple times to really realize what it was that I saw.
Describe it as a narrow cement walkway with a hurricane-type fence on one side, which would be the south side, and the residence on the north side. There were bushes and trees growing up along the fence, and again, it appeared to be fairly narrow.
People 68A.
Do you recognize what's shown in People 68A, sir?
Yes, that appears to be the walkway.
Now, you you see leaves on the ground here,
Yes,
and is that the way it looked to you on June the 13th?
yes.
How about the lighting in that area?
It was light outside, but the direct area was more or less shrouded with the shadows of the shrubbery and the building.
So what was the lighting like?
Well, again, it was light outside, but I wouldn't call it excellent lighting. Certainly you could see, but it wasn't really good.
Fairly dark?
It was beginning to get light about the time that I was there, and it was darker than normal, I guess, if we were in the middle of the day.
So where did Detective Furman take you on that south side path?
It took me down to a point just as indicated in the photograph here. Appears to be a wall air conditioner coming out of the left side of the wall. That particular area is the rear of Cato Kalin's guest room. He took me to a point just this side of the air conditioner.
People 68B.
All right, you indicated a location just this side of the air conditioner. Do you mean by that just west of the air conditioner?
Yes.
Okay. And the photograph that you're looking at now, 68B?
B.
B? Do you recognize that location?
It's a photograph looking down that walkway in an easterly direction towards the air conditioner.
People 68C.
Do you recognize what's shown there, sir?
Yes, that's appeared to be a dark brown or black leather glove that was pointed out to me by Furman.
How close did you get to the glove before you were able to see it?
Approximately 6 feet.
Now, do you recall, strike that, let me ask you something else. The glove that's shown in this photograph, 68C, is that the position and the condition in which you saw it?
Yes.
And you got within 6 feet of it before you were able to see it?
I had been told what we were going to look for, what we were going to look at, and it was probably 6 or 8, maybe 10 feet before I could actually distinguish what it was.
And you were actively looking for it at that time, I take it?
Yes.
Now, in order to get back to all right, did you touch the glove by chance?
No.
What was the closest you got to it?
Again, I think it must have been approximately 6 feet.
In order to get back on that south side of the property, sir, did you have to pass through any doors or gates?
There was a gate that appeared to be dilapidated and not necessarily in working order, just west of there.
How many gates were there to get back to the area of the air conditioner where the glove was?
There were no gates there were gates to walk through, but none of them that we had to open.
And how many of those were there? Open gates.
I think there might have been 2.
And they were both open when you walked back there?
Yes.
After you saw the glove, sir, what did you do?
Walked back to the front of the location where I met with my partner, Detective Van Adder.
Where was it that you met with him?
Seems to me it was in the driveway in front of the location.
And did you have a conversation with him there?
Yes,
Did he tell you to do something?
no.
What did you discuss?
Sustained.
What was the topic of your conversation?
Sustained.
You had a discussion with Detective Van Adder?
Yes,
Was anyone else present?
I don't believe so.
Based on your conversation, what did you do?
I returned to the Bundy location in a black and white patrol vehicle.
Where were Detective Furman and Detective Phillips when you left Rockingham to go back to Bundy?
Prior to that conversation, Van Adder had sent them back to the Bundy location.
So before you left, Detective Van Adder had already sent Detective Furman and Phillips back to Bundy?
That's correct.
And you left, if you know, how long after them did you leave?
Probably a matter of minutes.
How did you go back, since you and Phil came in one car?
Sustained.
I didn't hear it.
That's what he said.
Black and white, yes.
It's true. Okay. Now, do you know whether or not, do you know what Detective Furman and Detective Phillips were supposed to do back at Bundy?
Sustained.
I'm asking if he knows.
It's not the way the question started out. Rephrase the question.
Okay.
Question started
Do you
out
know-
is, do you know?
Do you know whether Detective Furman and Detective Phillips, what they were supposed to do back at Bundy?
Yes, yes.
And what was that?
Overruled. Overruled. Overruled.
They were going to compare the appearance of the glove at Bundy to the appearance of the glove at Rockingham to see if, in fact, it may be a match.
So when you left in the black and white to go to Bundy, what did Detective Van Adder do?
No, it says when he left, which I assume means as he is leaving, he can tell us what.
That seems like a feature to me. What did he do? But I'll defer to your judgment.
Well, thank you.
He remained at the location.
I just really want to see Judge Ito walk down off of his bench, smack, and then walk back. You may continue.
About what time was it when you left in the black and white?
Approximately 6:45 a.m.
All right, when you arrived back at 875 South Bundy, sir, did you see Detective Phillips or Detective Furman there?
Yes.
And where were they?
They were in the front of the location.
Did you have some contact with them?
Yes.
Who did you contact?
Detective Phillips.
And for what purpose, sir?
I asked Detective Phillips to contact the LA County Coroner's Office to make a first call notification.
So was that right away after you got back to Bundy?
Overruled.
Yes.
What do you mean by first notification?
First notification to the coroner's office indicates
His objections just made me Google something. And I'm going to show you what my answer was after I Googled it. Vacations in Fiji. I just Googled, you know what? All-inclusive vacation in Fiji. Can I have that? American Airlines Vacation has airfare all-inclusive deals starting at $1,471. That doesn't sound like a lot of money. I'm thinking about my vacations, you know, just a normal vacation, which my last vacation was in 2018, but it was a big one. I went to Ireland, so that's not a normal vacation. My last normal vacation was, I don't know when, but I'm sure I spent $1,471. Positive, because I have 3 kids, so I'm positive that $1,471 is not a lot to spend on a vacation. And Fiji sounds like a pretty gosh darn good place to go. I'm sure in my comments someone will tell me if it's not. Don't go to Fiji because they do this or this or this or this or this. I don't mind sitting in a cramped airline for 23 hours. I don't. If it ends up, hold on. Let me show you a different picture real quick that I'm seeing. Yes. O.J. Simpson trial brought me to this picture. I want to be there for $1,471. Now I'm not stupid. I know it's really like $6,000. I know that there's no such thing as an all-inclusive for $1,471 unless it's like one night. Fiji doesn't have spiders the size of horses. No, they don't. No, they don't.
Basically, what we have in the field as far as number of victims, a general rundown on any information we have, and a possible time estimate on when we'd require them to be at the location.
What's the purpose of that?
Purpose of that is to allow the coroner's office to have personnel available when they're needed.
What do you mean? Why wouldn't they be?
The per-
Okay. I think we have to end it there because my court's open in 5 minutes. I have been lacking lately on getting some good recordings, and I had to go to like YouTube judges. Whoo, that was hard for me. I mean, it was a good stream. It was great. It was a YouTube judge, and we made it through. But I need to up my game a little bit. I've been slacking since the McDonald trial, so I'm gonna be ready at 8 o'clock when the court's open. Who knows what we're gonna get this week? I hope we get a good Karen. I hope we get a great Karen this week. That would be awesome. Guys, thank you so much for coming out today. I really appreciate it. I appreciate watching the OJ trial with you. I really do. Um, and Carla, it was nice to meet you. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you all very, very soon, I'm sure. Bye, guys. Bye, Anthony.